What is the worst thing you've overheard while pretending to be asleep? In college, woke up to roommate's bed creaking. I shoot up to see what the hell is going on. There I see some woman on her back with her legs full spread eagle and my roommate just pile driving it like it was his last day on earth. Like a good bro I quickly lie back down and pretend to be asleep. Asterisk I in between gasps of air. Is your roommate awake? Him, nor he sleeps through anything. Cut to next morning. I casually get up and turn on my PlayStation 2 and start playing some random game. Roommate's fling gets up and casually comes over and sits next to me. Good morning asterisk my name me. Good morning asterisk her name her. Did you sleep good last night? Me, yeah, I can sleep through anything. As the last word left my mouth I immediately realize I blew it. She began a huge flurry of slaps at my roommate while cursing at him. He didn't care because he was too busy laughing the whole time. Edit. This is my first major comment of Reddit. Thanks for all the updates and awards. I'm glad I could make so many people laugh. And just to clarify for anyone asking, I did not realize who she was in the 05 seconds when I shot up in a haze. So to me, she was some random woman until the morning when I was able to realize who it was. She didn't really hit him hard, but it was a flurry of frustration slaps. No real harm was done. My family was staying at a friend's house and had to share a room. My dad comes to bed hammered and says to my mum something along the lines of, "Does it impress you that I'm this drunk and can still perform?" I actually wanted to die. My mom trying to calm my dad down out of a suicidal fit. My brother and I had been really bad that day, and when he grounded us, we both told him that we hated him and wanted him to go away. He didn't do anything wrong. My brother and I were just a couple of immature little cunts. I'm pretty sure blackout drunk at this point, which I had never seen and still haven't saw since then, walked into our room that night and I pretended to fall asleep. Then he just started these deep, haunting sobs that I'll probably never forget. He stumbled outside and we could hear him begging my mom to let him die and sobbing. All I've ever wanted in my entire life was to be a better dad than mine. I was only 11 or so, but it fucking destroyed my heart. I think that's the time I learned that emotional pain can actually physically hurt. I was hunched over in my bed bawling my eyes out and on the verge of throwing up. I also felt like an asshole for crying over what we said. My brother was thankfully able to sleep through it all. I think about that once every 2 weeks or so, and I always message him to tell him I love him when I do. I hoped he forgot about it, but being a dad myself now, I don't think it's something you totally forget. It might not hurt like it did in the moment, but I don't think you forget. Like most heartbreaking things I guess. My sister got drunk, and I heard a loud thud, and she blacked out. 2 of her friends and my mom and dad were shouting at each other, and they were saying to shut up cause they didn't want to wake me up, and they were all crying thinking she was dead, and I couldn't tell my sister I was happy she didn't die. Now I appreciate seeing her every week. My then stepmom's nephews talking about what they would do to me sexually if given the chance. I was 14, they were 17, 19, and 21. Thankfully the window to the motorhome was slightly open, and my dad heard the entire thing. I was scared of boys for a long time after that. Edit. Thank you everyone for your comments of support. A lot of people are asking what happened after. My dad ripped them a new one, and that was the end of it. About a year later, the youngest one tried to grope me when I was trying to sleep, but I was able to cover myself, and he gave up. The next day I told him I knew what he tried to do, and I would tell my dad if he didn't stop. He acted like he didn't know what I was talking about, but he never tried again. A year or so after that, they got divorced, and I never had to see her or her crazy family again. I'm so sorry for those of you who have similar stories. It's been almost 30 years since this incident, and I feel like I have a very healthy view of relationships now. I hope you all are happy and healthy too. 3. Thank you for the awards as well. These are the first 2 I've ever received, and goes to show how awesome most people are. 3. Acted asleep while family were talking amongst themselves about getting me married off to this girl who's educated, but 5 years older than me. I was 15. Then she got married and divorced, and absolutely ragdoll abused. So I actually feel bad about it now. Edit. Fuck this blow up. Some backstory. Girl had just graduated and family wanted her to marry. She agreed and their family made a list of possible suitors. I was one on that list. We were close-ish. But I had a almost fully developed beard at that time, so they probably assumed I was older. When it was brought up I outright rejected, because she was figuratively a big sister to me. Always looking out for me. It was an arranged marriage. Their family married her off, and they moved abroad. I don't know what the fuck was going through their minds. They married her to a 28Y/0 with mental health issues and she'd always get beat up every day because he assumed she was cheating. Then she got pregnant and he didn't believe it was his. It was. Police got involved and then family, uncles, aunts, it disgusts me to even say that, intervened. It's now been 2 years she's free of that monster. But he's not in jail. So it pains me to this day. I know it's not my fault, but I just have guilt that I maybe could have stopped this. And I apologize for using the term "raggle abused" because mostly people wouldn't see her for months on end and she'd always be covered up and sore. I did not use it in a derogatory matter. Comments asking if she's hot? Fuck you. Bloody get out more. Another edit. I got emotional, so I couldn't say this before. If you do see abuse, intervene the best you can. Call the police. Try to be supportive. Whatever you can. My mom getting the shit beat out of her. Update. Thanks for everything guys. Like I said in a reply, it was 30 years ago. He and my mom were married on/off until about 7 years ago when he put her in the hospital and I ended up breaking his nose and a rib. No idea where he is now, but she knows if she ever talks to him again or mentions him, she loses a son. Update 2. I noticed some people following me. You really don't want to do that. I'm what you call a very nice asshole. I do argue about stupid meaningless shit and have a very strong opinion against racism and fascists. I've only posted one original content here. I wasn't pretending to be asleep per se, but I was well on my way. I was under anesthesia and was fading in and out. I remember closing my eyes to help move things along. I was in a lot of pain because my appendix ruptured. This happened years ago, so I can't remember all of the details, unfortunately. I remember being moved over to an operating table, and they told me to take my shirt off, I think. I heard someone go, "What do you think would happen if I poked her belly button right now?" I was an outie prior to having an appendectomy. They went through my belly button, so that is no longer the case. Anyway, someone, very quickly, responded, "Dude, that is not funny. Remember what happened the last time?" It's possible I was starting to dream, but I remember it making me feel a mix of amusement and anxiety. Sleeping over at a friend's house when I was 14, all of us on the floor in living room. Couldn't sleep. Two of my friends, guy and girl, directly next to me start doing freaky things to each other. I was extremely shy and a couple of years younger than them, so I stayed quiet and hoped they'd stop. Had to listen to them for an hour while she made weird ass moaning squeaky noises and he was singing in a weird slightly whispery singy voice Matchbox 20 songs to her while he did whatever he was doing. That was last time I slept over at a friend's house. I wasn't pretending to be asleep so much as they assumed I was asleep. My in-laws thought I was still napping after dropping my kid off at school and they started to shit talk me. They said I was a terrible mom. I didn't care about my kids at all and they better buy a cake because I would rather sleep all day than make him a cake. It was his birthday and my god, it was only 10 AM. It doesn't take that long to make and frost a cake for him. Anyways, I cried in my room for 2 hours before they left to buy groceries, i.e. drink themselves into a stupor, before I got up and made the cake and birthday dinner my child asked for. I didn't tell my husband what they said until a week later because I didn't want to ruin his or my child's day. My walls were thin. I could hear almost anything. My parents argued in what they thought was a quiet voice about divorce. Then my dad says you can keep the kid. He annoys the F at and $ out of me. The next week they told me and signed the papers. Edit. Thank you everyone for the kind words. It means a lot to me. I do not really miss him much. He was mentally abusive and verbally abusive. I would sneak out, but couldn't bring my mom. That was the hardest. I'm sad but also glad he is gone. Since I'm an adult I don't have to see him ever again. Another thing, thanks for the award. Edit again. Damn, thanks for both the awards. I was at my BF's apartment staying over. His roommate also happened to have some friends who were dating there as well. I was in my BF's room and they were sleeping in the living room. They were definitely fucking. Weirdest thing of it all were these literal banging sounds, like someone was hitting the fucking wall. The whole time I had to piss like a motherfucker, but getting to the bathroom involved walking by the living room and I did not wanna risk it. When we woke up the next morning someone had ripped a chunk out of one of the curtains and the TV remote was snapped in half. To this day I don't wanna know what the fuck was going on in there. Roommate's boyfriend and his friend came into my room when they thought I was asleep. It was warm, and I was sleeping naked with minimal blanket coverage. I froze and pretended to sleep. They proceeded to talk about my body and how it was anyone's type. Also how easily it was to drug ladies these days. Oh, and also the friend talked about how easy it would be to steal/sell my boyfriend's boat motor that he had stored in the room. Yeah, so they were kicked out, and friend became an ex-friend because she was pissed I'd let my boyfriend kick them out. Dude, just do it. It's not like she'll remember. She's asleep, it's okay to touch her last night. Nope, doubt they're so fucking quick. Edit. Okay, so I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Holy fuck, for those of you asking, yes, I'm okay. I woke up the second I heard it and pretended not to hear anything. I just went to the kitchen to get water and call my mom. I was sleeping in my friend's room while she was in the shower. Everything is okay. She understood and very upset about it. Thank you for all the nice comments. I was in trade school in a different city than my hometown, so I was staying at my in-laws' home. My wife's dad was away for the weekend and I noticed her mom was wearing fancy dresses. She's a very beautiful woman, often mistaken for my wife's sister. She also seemed extra giddy before she would go out for the evenings. On the evening my father-in-law got home, I was in my room studying when I heard him yell at the top of his lungs, "So you F asterisk 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 the guy." I can only assume she felt guilty and told him, since it was soon after he go home. Anyways, he was yelling at her for most of the night, and I heard lots of crying from both of them. I heard some pretty terrible things. They are both very nice people, and it was sad to hear them on their worst night. They've stayed together, and it looks like they are fighting to make their marriage work. My father-in-law was very cold, distant, and angry for a couple of years, but they seem to be warm towards each other again. Also, the following morning they apologized for all the noise they made, and I told them I was just listening to music. Found out my dad's best friend died. They have been friends since they were literally 5 years old, went to the same schools, stayed best friends for 50 years. When he became an alcoholic and cut off contact with everybody, my dad still reached out to him multiple times, even though he obviously wasn't ready. He eventually got off the drink and they became really close again and were calling each other every day. I woke up to the phone ringing and my dad looking at it and immediately saying to my mom, "Oh god, I think he's dead." He knew that she only called when something bad was up, and he had been hospitalized multiple times because of his drinking. I remember saying on a post years ago that I dread to think of the day that his best friend died because I knew it was coming soon because of his past. My dad is old and is the type of guy who just wants a chat, and I know a lot of people he talks to don't want to do that. Anyway, I heard it all unfold and pretended to sleep because I just did not know what to say. I couldn't imagine losing a best friend for that long. I sat in my bed for hours thinking about it, but just laying still. I didn't fully process it until I went to work, and I spent nearly 2 hours crying in the toilets. That was the only time I cried in my adult life. My friend and her boyfriend having sex while we were staying in a hotel room together. There were 2 beds and my boyfriend and I were on the other one. She was so drunk and her boyfriend was like, "No, stop, they'll hear us." No. But he finally gave in. I kinda gave her shit about it later though. She later on fucked a different guy in my bed that same year during a party. We don't speak anymore. My mom and I were sharing a hotel room on a trip and unfortunately only had 1 bed, so we had to share that too. As I was trying to fall asleep, I kept hearing the text tone from my mom's phone going off and her giggling. My parents hate each other, so I knew it wasn't my dad she was texting with. Curious, I opened my eyes just a little bit to see that she was flirting with other men while on a trip with her family, and I was in fact staring at a dick pic. I couldn't really go back to sleep after that. When I was 12, I was staying with my aunt and cousins for a few weeks during summer. My male cousin was 4 years older than me. One night I was laying down in the loft, my sleeping quarters for the trip, and my cousin came home late with a friend. They came up to the loft, where they would normally hang out, and began talking. The friend noticed that I was asleep, asked my cousin if he could touch me. There was a whole back and forth about it, but in the end my cousin agreed to let him. His friend then proceeded to touch me. I was terrified and pretended to stay asleep. After a moment I moved a bit and rolled over, much like you would in your sleep. That was enough to get him to stop. I fucking hate that cousin to this day. When I was 9 years old, my father had an old work buddy over. They sat in the living room drinking scotch, talking about life. I had just moved into my new bedroom, which was right next to the living room. I feel that my father forgot I was sleeping next door. I was fascinated listening as they caught up on life, family, work, etc. I heard my father describe my older sister, older by 3 years. And then I heard him describe me. She's good, she's young, she's not as mature as her older sister. I wish she would stop being so emotional. It's such a drain. She acts much younger than her age. I was horrified. I was hurt. I tried to grow up fast after that. I buried my feelings. I buried them deep. As an adult, I'm still trying to get in touch with my feelings. I don't know if this has anything to do with what he said, or if this is just a part of being an evolved adult. It's not dramatic, but it hurt to hear my father criticize me when he thought I was out of earshot. I never forgot it.